I want to talk just a little bit more, and then I'm going to drop the subject because it's becoming repetitive. But it's just annoying to me to hear people do or say anything they can think of to justify anything that Trump and his administration does. So I've had one person contact me on the messengers through Facebook. And this guy, he's got a picture of himself on his Facebook page, is a pilot, at least wearing a pilot's uniform. I don't know if he was a pilot or not. But he says to me, first of all, he says, well, how about what Jefferson had to do with the Barbary pirates? And I say, what the hell does that have to do with the price of tea in China? Now, it just so happens, I was the chairman of the leader of our moot court competition team when I was in law school. Those of you who don't know what I'm talking about probably never went to law school. You don't need to know it. But I was the head of that of our team. We had a national, and we competed nationally with other law schools. The topic we had was whether or not the Vietnam War was legal. This was in 1968. Was the Vietnam War legal? And one of the arguments that was put out, actually by whichever administration, I think that was 68, so it would have been, it wouldn't have been Nixon yet. I think he took over, he had to take over in January of 69. So, but it's the Johnson administration, and this is one of the arguments that was put out by our opponents whenever we were against them in moot court competition. One of them was the Barbary pirates. So when this guy cites the Barbary pirates to me like, oh boy, I got him now, I know about the Barbary pirates. Well, I know all about the Barbary pirates because it was one of the foundations of the arguments that were made by those people who were claiming incorrectly that the Vietnam War was legal. Well, what happened with the Barbary pirates was they were pirates over in Barbary, and there was a pretty good movie about it. I can't remember the name now. If I ever do, I'll get back to you. Or look up Barbary Pirates movie. It was pretty good. About some woman who established a relationship with one of the sheiks and kept calling her Mrs. whatever her name was. It was a cute movie. It was about pirates killing people, but it was still a cute movie. Depends on how you define cute, I guess. So, but what they were doing was the Barbary pirates. They were from Arabian states in the Mediterranean, and they were attacking Americans' merchant ships. This is when Jefferson was president. They were taking the crews, and they were. My TV's out. It's giving me messages. I hate it when these people whom I have no idea who they are get into my computer or my cell phone, and they're always doing things to it like it was their property. It drives me crazy. It's almost as bad as this guy claiming the Barbary pirates was justification for. I'm going to try to get that thing off of there. Was justification for what Trump is doing. These pirates were on the Mediterranean. They were seizing American merchant ships. And then what they would do is they would hold them for ransom. And then the U.S. governments, before Jefferson, were paying the ransom to get these cargo ships released. So Jefferson said, to hell with that, and he sent the American fleet over there, and he says, you see any Barbary pirates? That they were taking them out. So those were ships that were under the control of Arab sheiks, and they were sending them out for the specific purpose of attacking American ships. Jefferson was completely in his rights to defend American ships that were being attacked by pirates. But there's no evidence that Jefferson ever said, and if you sink a Barbary pirate ship and there's pirates floating around in the water and they're helpless, you go over there and put a musket ball through their heads. That would be equivalent. He never said that. He just said, we're going to fight these Barbary ships. We'll sink them if we can, because those ships are going out and killing Americans. They were attacking Americans. They were acting under the directions of a government. Our government said, we're not going to allow these ships. They didn't attack the other governments, but Jefferson said, we're not going to allow our ships to sit there and be patsies for you. If you're coming after our ships, our Navy's going to be there to protect them. Now, tell me in any way, shape, or form does that universe have anything to do with shooting some probably kids in a small, tiny boat in the middle of the Caribbean, nowhere near American shores, not ever having attacked any Americans, any American ships, any Americans at all, under the assertion with no proof that they were bringing in the drugs that were killing millions of Americans. And this fellow had the nerve to when I pointed out to him about Jefferson wasn't a murderer and didn't kill helpless people in the Barbary War, that this guy says that, well, we are in a war against drugs. We've been in a war against drugs for a long time. I think it was Nixon that coined that phrase. Well, this person who should know better equated the slogan war on drugs with an actual at-war situation. It's a euphemism. It's not an actual war. Just because someone calls it a war on drugs doesn't mean it's a war. Wars are against countries. So if you're going to say, well, this country, these people were working under this country. The Maduro wants these boats coming up, bringing drugs over to kill and poison Americans. One, no attacks by these boats on anybody. Two, zero evidence that there were actually any drugs on there. Three, if there were drugs, no discussion about what kind of drugs there were. Now, everybody who isn't living in a cave, his expression, living in a cave, knows that fentanyl, which is the dangerous drug which is really killing people because it gets mixed with other drugs that people are taking that shouldn't be taking them, and it's killing people. But fentanyl doesn't come from Venezuela, and it doesn't come from Colombia. It comes from China to Mexico, where it's processed, and then it comes from Mexico into the United States. And anybody that knows anything about this knows that's what's going on. So to say, oh well, we're on a war on drugs, that's one statement which is completely wrong. There's no declaration of war against Venezuela, number one. Number two, you don't conduct a war against criminals other than euphemistically. If someone is selling drugs in the United States, same drugs, is it okay for the police to go in and kill them dead because it's a war? No, it's a crime. We have a constitution. We have a history of laws in this country. And the history of law is you don't go out, and everybody knows this, including this guy who should have known, you don't go out and the police don't have the right to go out and shoot somebody dead because he's committing any crime. You get them arrested, they get tried, they get convicted, and then, unless they're a friend of Trump's, they go away for a long time. Him letting the South American country leader out of jail after a brief period of time, the guy was sentenced to 40 years. Says Trump, this man who's conducting the war against drugs. But that's an aside. I'm focusing right now on what this fellow was saying, because I hear this argument a lot from people who just want to support Trump. So, well, we're on a war on drugs. Wrong, we're not. Two, because we're in a war on drugs, and drugs are killing Americans, these people are essentially engaged in combat operations against the United States. Now, you have to live in some real funny farm to think that importing illegal drugs is a war on the United States. It's not a war on the United States, it's a crime. And if you can interdict these people and you find that they've got drugs on the boat, you can seize the drugs, you can sink the boat. You can't kill the crew unless they're shooting at you. Unless they are engaging in something which puts you in danger, you don't have a right just to go out and start killing people willy-nilly. Like I said, you can't do it if they're Americans doing that. That doesn't mean you can do it to anybody else. And they weren't anywhere close to American waters. And they were tiny boats, small boats small enough that I heard somebody say they were cigarette boats. Well, I know cigarette boats because, no, I don't smoke. Because I live just north of Fort Lauderdale. As one person said, one wag said, that even in Fort Lauderdale, even the poor people have cigarette boats. But those are beautiful, giant boats, and they're very expensive, and they don't look anything like these boats that were bombing. But it's no war. There's no evidence. These are not enemy combatants. They were not shooting people. They were not shooting anybody who wanted to seize their boats, because nobody even attempted to seize their boats. They just bombed the hell out of them and killed them right there. Just killed them. And if this is true that Pete Hegseth said kill them all, or even if he didn't, if the order that was originally given was reasonably understood, it reminds me of King, I forget which king it was, he said to Thomas à Becket, will no one rid me of this meddlesome priest? And so he took that. They said, well, that sounds like a pretty good idea, said his friends, Nords and Nodes. So they went on and killed the guy. Well, the king said, I didn't order his killing, but I just suggested it. So So they take what Pete Hegseth said. If he said, kill everybody, or even just say, when you see a boat like that, don't try to seize it, don't try to arrest people, just bomb the hell out of it and kill them. Well, that is an order to kill people, and it's illegal. So if the admiral interpreted what Hegseth meant, even if he never talked to Hegseth or whatever his name was again, if he reasonably understood that that's what the message that Hegseth, the God of War, was telling him to do, then that's on Hegseth. This guy was an admiral, is an admiral. And if he reasonably interpreted, and a reasonable person in a trial would think, oh yeah, that's that pretty much that's what he told him to do, was get rid of everybody, and that if it took one strike, two strikes, he didn't say kill everybody at one strike if you can. After that, comply with the UCMJ and rescue the people who are maybe drowning in the water there. He didn't say that. He just said kill them all. If the story is true, and I believe it is because it's consistent with the guy's attitude. But we'll see, because the Republicans are conducting investigations in the House and the Senate on this. Hopefully they'll get to the bottom of it. But the point is, stop making excuses for this. Stop dragging or searching around. And going all the way back to the Barbary pirates in Jefferson. At least if you're going to do that, study it up a little bit and learn what you can about it. Don't just grab something out of it random that you heard somewhere and throw it out there. Yeah. There's plenty of written history about the Barbary pirates. I know. I spent a lot of time researching it. That's when I was in law school. Yes, they had law schools then. All right. Anyway, so stop making up these stupid excuses. In particular, we're in war on drugs. Did we declare war against the nation of drugs? No, we're not at war on drugs. Stop it. If anything, these are crimes, and you treat them when you have somebody who's a criminal. The police don't barge in and just start shooting people. I mean, does that sound really far-fetched to say? Those of you who want to do anything to support what this administration does, no matter what it is, whenever it is, does it sound reasonable to you that the police in this country who suspect that somebody is a drug runner have a right to just go up and summarily execute that person? You don't have that right in this country. You don't have that right in the high seas. There are ways to interdict these drug boats, if they are drug boats. And for crying out loud, give the Information Administration to the Congress. And it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out, because these Republicans, the senators, I want to say Wicker, but that's I don't want to confuse him with Lowell Wicker, and he's from Mississippi. He's the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, and then the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee is also conducting an investigation, another Republican. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because you may find the Trump administration refusing to comply with subpoenas issued by Republican leaders in the House and Senate. And I'm waiting to hear how that one plays out. But please, stop making excuses for the inexcusable. And that's all I have to say about that. And I'm going to try to avoid this subject, but when people say these things, and I see them on TV and on talk shows, just stretching and twisting themselves into knots and pretzels to try to justify what is a clear violation of the Uniform Code of Military Justice and a bunch of other things as well. So, on that happy, cheery note, and incidentally, I had a birthday yesterday, but it was scheduled for December 2nd, but because I had a press of business, I've had to put it off for a couple of years. So I dodged that bullet. That's right, I'm still 30. Bye.